Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, a free site. Also, always 1776.com, a free site. Today is May the 26th, 2024. Remember, nothing I say in this video should be construed as financial advice. I want everyone here to do their own due diligence, to have their own advisors. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, because of the times, let's just set this up by talking about the current political climate, because it impacts what we do, what we believe in. Now understand, in my opinion, to be a good leader requires vision and execution. I need for people to understand that while I'm hesitant, and I mean hesitant, to fully align with any political party, I believe when you're a voter, you need to be nimble. You can't be blinded by brand names. I can just tell you that I voted for the Libertarian candidate for President of the United States multiple times. Right? Multiple times. So let me point out, I was intrigued by former President Donald Trump actually appearing before the Libertarian convention. Now understand, the Libertarian Party has undergone some changes recently. Right? If you're a old school Libertarian, you aren't in love with the current Libertarian Party leadership. Right? Old school Libertarians really were market-based. New school Libertarians seem to have a social component that rubs some old-timers the wrong way. So just understand, when we say Libertarian Party, it's evolving. Now let me offer some views. I understand this is going to turn off a lot of people, and that's fine. Right? I'll let the chips fall where they may, quite frankly. I was very glad that Joe Biden, the President of the United States, the current, did not appear before the Libertarian convention. And the reason is simple. I view Joe Biden as a populist. Right? He is just doing whatever is popular at the time. If the people like spending money, he's going to spend money. Future generations are going to have to fend for themselves. The question of whether running up wartime debt levels is actually in the best interest of the United States doesn't matter as much as being popular, following what's popular. Right? I view Joe Biden as lacking in vision. I'm not really interested in Joe Biden's speeches even. Right? I had better things to do, like brushing my teeth, than watching the State of the Union address by him. Right? So I appreciate the fact that a populist did not appear before the Libertarian Party, because that would have been a complete waste of time. Right? Quite frankly, I don't even know why a populist would want to be President of the United States. Maybe having power is just that intoxicating. But if you're not operating pursuant to a vision, if you don't have an agenda that you actually want to put in place that you think will help the country, then whatever power you have, if you win the position, is meaningless, because all you're doing is taking and following polls. So let's talk about Trump now. This, to me, really belongs on Saturday Night Live. Right? You mean to tell me the president who backed the COVID lockdown The president who elevated Dr. Fauci, a vaccine entrepreneur, to a position where we were listening to Dr. Fauci as if he was some God-type figure, in hearing that we had to put masks on our toddlers who were attending kindergarten and first grade. Right? I am utterly baffled that the Libertarian Party would have President COVID lockdown speak to it. I don't think there's anything President Trump could tell me about his COVID policy that I'd be interested in entertaining or considering, other than an apology for the foolishness of the policy. It's even worse than that. They raided the American Treasury. They paid people not to work, while they were forcing many workplaces to close. Right, folks? One of the reasons why we have obscene debt levels right now is because of the financial giveaway that we had during the last year of the Trump administration. Right? Under the guise of, addressing the pandemic. Right, folks? It was a travesty. We had arbitrary social distancing laws where they were telling you that you had to stay 6 feet away from the person next to you. For months. Not weeks, several months. I had a cloth mask. It was a gaither, right? That I knew was decorative. It wasn't stopping anything from, certainly not vaccines, certainly not viruses from going in and out the mask. And it was so preposterous, I would be dropping my young child off at school, and I would have this gaither on that had to be flooded with whatever was coming out of my nose. And of course, I would adjust the gaither. Where did they think that bacteria would end up? It would necessarily end up on my hand. In other words, these masks that seem to have been ordered, to placate the public, were actually furthering the viral outbreak. Because now you had these masks concentrated with whatever viruses you were breathing out of your nose. The virus couldn't disperse in the air. Right? So let's just say I'm astonished. I'm astonished that anyone behind a COVID lockdown that wasn't science-based was actually allowed to speak in front of the Libertarian Party. Let me also make another foundational point. If you're going to have a protectionist talk in front of the Libertarian Party, to me, that's akin to having a slave owner talk to the NAACP. Right, folks? Understand protectionism, where you are preventing countries from importing goods and services into your country, is anathema to the idea of free markets and libertarianism. The government should not be able to tell me what I can buy from China. It just simply shouldn't be able to. You also hurt the American economy when you don't allow free trade and you have the development and capital investment in the United States in businesses that aren't competitive internationally. That weakens the U.S. Right? Understand, too, whatever harebrained scheme some foreign country has with regard to their economy, if they're going to give us stuff at very cheap prices, we should take advantage of the windfall. Right? Lord knows some of these foreign countries have had ridiculous ideas, right? The one-child policy in China is still hurting that country. Right? Japan's demographics are an absolute mess. Japan's ridiculous money printing, absolute mess. But understand, here in the United States, if China and Japan come to us and offer us goods and services at a fraction of their costs, we're foolish if we don't take advantage of the bonanza. So to have protectionist Donald Trump, folks, he's still pursuing this anti-China, line, right? We're still supposed to believe that he's protecting American jobs by being a protectionist, right? To have him speak in front of the Libertarian convention was comedy of the highest order, right? As I said, it belongs on Saturday Night Live. It's even worse than that, too. Of course, in traditional American politic fashion, he then starts pandering to the crowd. He says, hey, I'll have a libertarian in my cabinet, right? As if some low-level cabinet job is going to make up for protectionist policies or COVID mandate policies that the country's still recovering from, right? How about eliminating some of these ridiculous cabinet positions? How about promising to reduce government? Right, folks, the share of the GDP that the government has right now is extremely high, and we don't have a world war going on. This isn't World War I or World War II. Right, folks, it's a farce. I'm hearing about a cabinet position. You think that's going to get my vote? That was ridiculous. Right? Trump is calling himself a libertarian. How can you when you're a protectionist? So I will say, I was proud of one thing, and I was extremely proud of it. Right? And don't get me wrong, I think Trump's better than Biden. Right? I cannot envision the scenario where I would vote for Joe Biden. Right? There's some things about Trump I like, but I was extremely pleased that many in the crowd booed him. If Trump is coming in as a protectionist, he has very little that I'm interested in. Let's make another point with regard to Biden, since I mentioned him. Understand that when you're the world reserve currency, and when people have some of your currency, when foreign countries have money in some of your banks, you do not have the moral authority to decide that you're going to give that money to some other entity, regardless of how foolish that foreign country acts. Right? The Biden administration seems to feel that it can randomly decide that it doesn't like what Russia's doing, and then decide to give Russian assets in the United States to third parties. Folks, life doesn't work like that. Understand, if you're going to accept the responsibility of being the world's reserve currency, that responsibility has to come with the acknowledgement that assets owned by foreign countries in American banks continue to belong to those foreign countries. You don't get to arbitrarily decide that those assets belong to someone else. So, having a Donald Trump talk to the Libertarian Party, again, was comedy of the highest order. Right? Really? A protectionist in front of the Libertarian Party trying to get libertarian votes? If that's the thought process, then you don't understand libertarianism. Right? When I hear someone's a protectionist, I'm moving on to the next candidate. They're not invited to speak to me further about wanting my vote because they've already lost it. Now let's talk about investments in past videos, and you can tell the videos where I talk about investments because they have this background, high risk in the background. And I've talked about ideas. Understand, artificial intelligence is so capital intensive that only the best finance players have an opportunity to dominate the space. Right? So we've talked about this in other videos. Microsoft, which already owns part of OpenAI, Amazon, Google, possibly Apple. We'll see how Apple participates in the space. You really need companies that are very cash rich, very tech savvy to be able to participate. Meta, right? And so to me, the best way to play AI is to invest in those extremely well capitalized companies that are already in the space. Right? We all hope and dream that we're going to find that cheap company out there that has patents, has a great business deal with an NVIDIA, and can, ride the wave to success, has more upside growth ahead of it than mature companies like Microsoft. Just understand that when those companies appear, they're going to be bought out. Understand, too, even NVIDIA has competitors, right? AMD comes to mind. They have competitors, and just understand, in-house, companies like Google are themselves in-house developing their own semiconductors, right? So that space, you have to view it as a space for the already market entrenched, in my opinion, right? Let's shift gears. AI is actually an ecosystem. It's not just, Taiwan Semiconductor and NVIDIA, with, of course, the companies I've named, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta. Understand, AI is actually an ecosystem. Just think about what happens when you do an AI inquiry here online. Right, folks? You're dealing with digital data centers, right, that have their own set of companies. Dell Computer has been on fire. It's going to continue to be on fire because their servers are in demand at digital data centers, right? Vertiv, companies like that actually help the computers continue to operate at digital data centers are going to thrive, right? You also have a real estate component. When you hear about a digital data center being set up someplace, you need to think about who owns the real estate. Of course, energy in this era is big, right? I'm bullish on, obviously, oil and gas, as I've stated in past videos. There's going to be an energy shortage. The electrical grid is going to require upgrading because AI is very energy intensive. Cryptocurrency as well. Also, there seems to be a movement toward electric vehicles. So to me, of course, as inconvenient as it is for the green energy folks, I believe that folks need to look hard at, the Exxons of the world. XOM is the symbol. The Chevrons of the world. Hess. Chevron's trying to merge with Hess, right? You need to look very hard at that space, including also the natural gas space, EQT. I'm still bullish on all of that, right? Let me point out, too, that I'm bullish internationally in some areas. China's down right now. Okay, fair enough. But understand, Countries like China cannot ignore artificial intelligence. So, of course, Alibaba has a foot in the door on artificial intelligence. At these valuations, I believe it's a no-brainer. You need to be in Alibaba, right? You need to overlook the problems that are inherent right now with our American political leadership, and you need to have some vision, and you need to look at world markets, right? So just understand, it's only because China's dealing with things like a real estate overbuild, and that China has had other problems, right? Youth unemployment that's so high they've stopped counting youth unemployment, that you're getting Alibaba at these prices. So you have to ask yourself, what are going to be the dominant businesses in 3 to 5 years? I believe AI is with us to stay, and Alibaba is just too well positioned to miss that wave in China, a country that's much bigger than the United States, right? So to me, one of the plays I like, I want you to think for yourself, is Alibaba. It's BABA. Let me point out too that online merchants have won the retail war, right? We used to have a lot of neighborhood-based stores. They've been taken over. They've been beaten in the marketplace by companies like Amazon. Well, in Latin America, you want to know about Mercado Libre, right? Mercado Libre, which is free market, right, in Spanish. That's a vibrant company that is very well positioned, right? The world now is socialized toward Amazon-type companies, across the globe. Also, Coupang, you want to be aware of that company in Asia, right? I believe that they are well positioned. It's very hard for new companies to be able to compete with these established companies that have the name recognition and that have the distribution network, right? I can tell you I was not surprised at all by Walmart doing extremely well in their last earnings report. I am a Walmart Plus member. Quickly, I realized that their program, where you don't even have to pay for the delivery, in other words, if you pay a little bit extra and get the right to have items delivered, you have to allow it to happen over a 4-hour window. But if you have items delivered to your home through this program at Walmart, you don't have to pay another penny. So you're saving money on the purchase. You're saving time. You don't have to go to the Walmart. And unlike Walmart's traditional delivery service, where they want you to tip, in quotes, the deliverer, you don't even have to tip the Walmart Plus deliverer if you sign up through this program. It's very hard. It's very hard for local non-national suppliers, retailers to compete with services like that, right? Let's also name another company. Weight loss right now is the rage. I believe it's going to be with us for some time. I saw that Oprah apologized recently for being part of the weight loss culture. Well, you and I know the weight loss culture is here to stay. It has been since I've been an adult. And I need for people to look up Viking Therapeutics, right? Just understand right now the setup is that you have to inject yourself with Ozempic, right? To the extent that you have innovative entrepreneurs in the space who could remove the injection requirement and allow people to take pills, right? And that can also bypass any of the unwanted side effects from taking Ozempic, In this space, they have a nice ramp ahead of them, right? Viking Therapeutics is something you need to look out for. Also, Recursion Pharmaceuticals, the symbol is RX, RX, again, RX, RX. They're using AI in terms of drug discovery. I think that AI is going to filter out into the research world, and I think that biotechs are going to profit handsomely from using AI to review their investigative data. Right, so those are the ideas I have today. Let me just point out that I try not to be too political, but just understand I really am market-based. And let me just say, Rishi Sunak in the UK has called for a snap election. I expect him to lose that election. Right? His governance has been really nondescript as far as I can tell. As bad as Joe Biden has been, and let's face it, Joe Biden's not really running the country. You can tell that the minute you see him speaking in public. You understand this is an 81-year-old who is really a front mouthpiece for some other group. And anytime you're in that situation, Americans should be concerned. But as bad as Joe Biden has been, somehow Trudeau in Canada, in my opinion, has been even worse. Right? We need to get back to markets. As I like to say, sooner or later, the market takes over. Right? Until it does, you hear fairy tales about the Fed somehow being in control of the economy, as if fractional reserve banking isn't creating the money supply. When that folklore gives way to reality, just understand you're going to have a housing correction. Right? Just understand when entire generations can no longer afford housing because the multiple of median income to the house price has reached the double digits in places like the Bay Area where I am. Right? New York City, big cities. Right? And when you have pension plans that don't have enough money to actually pay out their pension benefits to beneficiaries, the market's going to make the adjustment. Right? You're going to have credit card delinquencies at record levels, as you do right now. You're going to have lenders hesitant to lend money. You're going to have people hesitant to commit to high mortgage rates. You're going to have commercial real estate crater. When, of course, market participants can't roll over these loans to the higher interest rate. Right? So just look at what's happening, and you need to, in your analysis, look past the politicians, because in truth, their political power is limited. You know, it was fascinating. Trump, of course, started talking about Bitcoin. Folks, Bitcoin has been around from before the first Trump term. Right? Why wasn't Trump talking about Bitcoin when he was in office? You mean it took for him to lose an election, be out of power for 3+ years, to now suddenly be talking about how he's against a central bank digital currency and how he favors Bitcoin? It's ridiculous. Right? So I need for folks to look at markets. I need for people to understand that the billion-plus people in China need goods and services. I need for people to realize that the around 400 million people in the United States need goods and services. Right? So we need to think about world trade. Any politician that tells you that they can guarantee American jobs or increase American jobs by somehow regulating world trade is selling you a promise that they can't deliver on. Those are my thoughts on this May 26, 2024. Let me hear yours in the comment section of this YouTube video. Let me also say too, if you're a party partisan and you want to, make comments in the comment section, feel free. It's a free country. But as I said before, right, a protectionist really has nothing to offer me, or in my opinion, most investors. Right? When a Donald Trump appears before a libertarian convention, I appreciate the gesture. I really do. But just understand, if your agenda is to have, COVID mandate lockdowns and, regulated trade where you get to pick winners and losers, coupled with an offer of some minor position in your cabinet, I'm not going to stick around for that dialogue. It's simply not enough. Right? If you're going to make promises, promise to address the debt load. Right? Tell us how you're actually going to follow through like Milei is right now in Argentina. Tell me how you're going to eliminate cabinet positions. That's what I want to hear. Right, folks? We have a bubble. It's a government bubble. We need to get most of the government out of the way so we can get back to actually participating in free markets. Those are my thoughts. I look forward to yours. Thanks for stopping by.